Okay, we are in Maine right now. We've come across the pond, and in Maine, we are with Carol Hess of the Golden Goddesses. And Carol, welcome to our Holiday Bash. And what's your weather like up in Maine?
Thanks, Ann. It's great to be here. Well, it's perfect Holiday Bash weather because I'm looking out my window, and we have gorgeous clinging snow on every branch of the tree, brilliant blue skies, bright sunshine, and it is cold. I can tell you that it's chilly, but it's real Christmas weather, and it's our first major snow of the season. So the kids are happy. The adults are adjusting and putting on their warm woolies and chains on the tires of the car. It's winter in Maine.
Wonderful. And what's so much fun about our Global Bash is we started in Australia through the UK, so we're going to get every weather and geographical hit. Carol, tell us about your work. You are the star polisher. What does that mean?
Well, I have been spending several years figuring that out, and I think I have finally figured out more or less what it is. I think it varies a little bit from person to person and what it feels to me like the world needs. But basically, I'm all about the empowerment of women, and I always have been about the empowerment of women. So that's what Star Polisher is about. Now, I think that as women, we have to empower ourselves. I don't think anybody else can come along and empower us. But I think women today are getting to that point where they say, enough. I'm tired of playing small. I'm tired of being invisible. I'm tired of not stepping into my power, not letting my light shine, not sharing my gifts and superpowers and special genius that I came in with. So as the Star Polisher, my mission's really to encourage and support and inspire women to take that leap off the cliff into self-empowerment. It's a scary leap to take by yourself. I don't think any of us needs to do it alone. And I promise that when you leap, you don't fall, you fly.
That's beautiful. And it sounds like that really segues or coordinates with your radio segment on Golden Goddesses. How do you view that segment?
In exactly the same way. I want my listeners to, first of all, know that they're not alone out there in the struggles and challenges they face as women today. Our world is transitioning. Transition is never easy. On a planetary scale, it's never easy. On an individual scale, it's not easy. But, oh, my goodness, is it great to know that you're not the only one going through these transitions. You're not the only one facing these challenges, and that there are women before you who have walked this path, whose footsteps you can follow, and who have kind of cleared the path a bit for you. There are women walking behind you for whom you are clearing the path, and to go for it. Be inspired and just go for it.
I love that. And I sometimes call you our storyteller, because oftentimes in your segment, it's like I sit back and you're sort of telling me a story by the fireside. So I enjoy the way you can tell stories as well. You're a great storyteller.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm a writer. That's my probably passion number 2. It used to be passion number 1 until star polishing came along, but writing is passion number 2, and all writers are storytellers. We're snoops. We listen in on conversations. We are observers. As little children, we sat on the steps and, hoped that we would go invisible and listen to all the adults and what they were talking about. So I believe in the power of words, and I really believe in the power of stories, not just to entertain, but, again, to make people, how do I put this? When we tell a story from our own life, inevitably somebody out there is going to identify and say, oh, that happened to me, or oh, I had something similar happen. Oh, again, I'm not the only one. I think we're all absolutely so thirsty for the feeling of connection and community right now. And that is one way we do connect, and always have as human beings, is telling stories around the fire, literally from cave times.
Or even, I'm thinking, I don't know why it flashed in my mind, but the women who did quilting. Partly you get a
Right.
quilt, but then partly you're sitting there telling stories and sharing and polishing stars, I guess, in another way.
Yes, and quilts tell stories as well. I believe that there are certain quilting patterns. I may have this wrong, but I think there are certain quilting patterns that I think that told the story to the slaves in the South of where they could go to reach the Underground Railroad to go to freedom. Some of those stories were sewn into the quilts hanging on the lines, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I know that there are other quilts that tell other kinds of stories. So, yeah, women have always been big storytellers. There's a huge oral tradition between women. You know, what's the first thing we do when we get together? We don't watch sports on television together. We talk together. We tell each other the stories of our lives.
I know. I love that. And more than that, too, with our stories, you know, we like to just say it out loud. Where men want to fix it, women like to share it. So,
exactly.
So I enjoy being a woman. It's one of those wonderful things. But, hey, Carol, what's on your bucket list? Give us a couple of things on your bucket list.
Oh, boy, on my bucket list. Well, I used to live in Africa a gazillion years ago. I was there for about 5 years. Fell in love with Africa for sure. And the idea was that before I left, I would always go visit South Africa. At the time that I was there, South Africa was still under apartheid, and anybody living in the rest of Africa really couldn't go to South Africa. You did not want that visa in your passport. I would love to go to South Africa sometime. I was reminded of that as I was watching the funeral services for Nelson Mandela. I think it's a very special country. So it bred a very special man in Nelson Mandela. So I'm very intrigued to go to South Africa. I want to build my dream house. I think I'm a frustrated architect, or I'm going to be an architect of my next lifetime or something. I have always loved fooling around with house plans and things like that. So I would really love to do that. And then as a writer, I've got the dream that I guess most writers have. I want to write a book that changes people's lives. Do I care if it gets on the New York Times bestseller list? Not really, except that means that more people will be exposed to my book and the possibility of having their lives changed because of it. Books have changed my life. So that's one of my, write that book that's going to change lives. Big on the bucket list.
That sounds wonderful. I love those. Suppose a magic carpet came and could take you to South Africa, and you had to grab 3 things from your house to take with you. What 3 things would you grab as you hop on your magic carpet to fly to South Africa?
Well, I am nothing if not a practical, down-to-earth girl, and knowing Africa the way I do, I would grab my passport. Thank you very much. Don't want to be stuck anywhere in the world without my good old American passport. It's something that I will never take for granted again, having had to have it overseas. What else would I take with me? Well, I think the other 2, they have to be a pad and a pen, because a writer explodes if she can't write. So, give me my passport so I can go anywhere, in case that magic carpet kind of gets a little off track and doesn't get to South Africa, which is okay. And then give me my pad and my pen so I can write about it.
Ah, wonderful. And one last question. What is your guiltiest pleasure? Or secret pleasure, or just something that it's a treat that, just lights you up when you can give it to yourself?
I hate to admit this, but I really love those old television shows, like the Bob Newhart show, the Mary Tyler Moore show, MASH. Oh, my gosh, I love MASH. I fell in love with MASH back whenever it first aired, I think in the 70s. Maybe. So much so my mother actually phoned into a radio show and put in a bid for an actual script from the MASH television show. Unfortunately, she didn't win it, but that's how much I was in love with it. I can watch MASH and Mary Tyler Moore and Bob Newhart over and over and over again. And I do. Escape. Pure and total escape. Love it.
That's great. So for our listeners, this is a little peek at the life of Carol Hess, snowbound in her home in Maine, And if you'd like to hear more, you can find her on the Golden Goddesses. She's at the top of the hour, starts the show. If you're in Eastern Time, it's 10 o'clock Eastern Time, but the programs are all available on demand. And this is it's a Wednesday show. No, Tuesday. I'm looking at my calendar, and I started the wrong day. Tuesday at 10 o'clock. So if you need inspiration, if you need to polish your star, you'll know where to find Carol Hess. Carol, what's your website? Where people can go and take
My
a look
website is starpolisher.com, and I encourage everybody to go there, especially after the first of the year, because I'm doing a revamp for the rest of December on my website, and it is going to explore so much more what Star Polisher is becoming these days. So please encourage everybody to go visit and drop me an email. Love to hear from you.
That sounds great. Thank you for popping into our party, Carol.
Thank you, Ann. I enjoyed it. Happy holidays.